afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Speakers Bank podcast, Our Voices, Our Views, a regular podcast edition. I am Billy, here with Georgia from Speakers Bank, and we're here with Catherine and Storm and Nathan.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Nathan.
Hello.
So, guys, we can just start with our questions. I might go with the first one. What was sex education like for you in school, and did you feel prepared enough after that?
Really quick, Billy, I just wanted to, for anybody listening, today's episode is part 2
I'm so sorry.
Dating
Yes.
with Disability. If you want to see part 1, it should be the video before this or somewhere.
It'll be in the description anyway.
Yeah, it'll be in the description anyway. So, sorry, Billy, to cut you off.
No, I'm glad you did. No, all good, all good. Would you like me to repeat the first question, guys, or?
Yeah, yes, please. That'd be great.
Yes, okay. So what was sex education like for you in school?
For me, it was sort of like a bit of a joke because when you're like in the teenage era, it's a bit of like a type thing, and you're not really taking a lot of information in. So, and it's sort of like a competition in the classroom. Have you actually had sex yet? Do you know what to actually do? Oh, I've had sex before. Have you, Storm? I'm thinking, hell no, I haven't had anything to. I'm like, how do you know this sort of stuff before we even had the sex education? And just it mind boggled me to the point where I'm like, guys are just doing it because they think it's fun when it should be taken more seriously and be a more appropriate setting rather than I've had sex first, haha, and you haven't had it. You know, it's like it should be a competition.
And I, Storm, I kind of know what that's like because I got the not so much I've had sex and you haven't, but I got the whole, can you? And that's that I think is worse because that almost implies that people think like I'm an alien from Mars.
Yeah, I've had that too, and it's very very sad that they think that we're different. But it's very, very inappropriate. It's a very sex is a very, very personal thing for every individual. Yeah. And for someone to question our sexuality like that is not very, very nice.
Yeah.
So, was that mostly from kids, or was it like?
Mostly from hormonal teenagers in like a year 8 health class. Because the thing is, I was quite lucky in the sense that I was actually prepared for, sex ed when I was probably 9 or 10. My mum did the whole, this is where babies come from. And then
everyone got the
puberty.
talk.
And then after, when I turned like 12, 13, the years later, I did the whole puberty thing. But then they obviously reinforced that in primary school and it's all fine. It's only when you get to high school that you get like idiots, 15, 16-year-old idiots that ask you really stupid questions.
Yes, teenagers that have no filters.
No.
Yeah, basically.
No.
Yep.
And I just wanted to ask the group a question. Do you think sex ed is an appropriate conversation to have at high school, or do you think it needs to happen when they're a bit younger, when they can sort of not joke around too much about it?
Well, I'm not sure about you guys, but from my experience with my youngest son, who I do believe even my daughters, they start in primary school in about grade 5 and grade 6.
Right.
And,
same.
Yeah, and he didn't, to be quite honest, he didn't take it very well. I was present for that. They asked the parents to be present. And by the 4th time of him walking out of the library and lying down on the concrete because he was going to pass out, I said, let's go home.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how do you guys feel about that? Like, what was your reaction? This is coming from a young, 10, 11, 12-year-old boy.
Sorry, I just
to be honest, sorry, cutting
I
on.
just lost the conversation there. So what happened to your son?
He was just feeling nauseated and sick and overwhelmed and anxious about seeing all this and talking about all this.
Yeah.
About the sex education.
Yeah, and he kept walking out and lying on the concrete outside the library where we were having all of this.
Yeah.
And by the fourth time, and literally he turned as white as a sheet.
How old is he?
He was in grade 5, and then they did a bit in grade 6.
That's like 13?
No.
No, that's younger.
He was 10, 11.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if he dealt with the way he dealt with it, he just couldn't cope with it. Even though he understood, he couldn't sit in on it. And he literally, it was like every ounce of blood had drained from his body. It was so white.
It sounds like he had too much information to deal with.
Yeah, he just couldn't deal with it.
Overload.
So my question is to you guys, how did you feel at that age if it was at primary school? Did you feel similar to that or was it just, oh, well,
I don't really remember. When I was at school, it was just for the grade 6s that did the sex education. I don't think we went to that extreme to make us feel uncomfortable because we were still children. So it really depends on what you're teaching about it. It should only go to a certain level for the children.
They would in primary, if it's primary school, it would be very appropriate for their age group, but he just couldn't take it. So every child was different. There was lots of other children there that were absolutely fine with seeing visuals of body parts and stuff to explain those body parts. My son couldn't cope. So, yeah.
Billy, just out of curiosity, when you look back on the situation, do you wonder whether or not your son would have taken it better had you, decided to, sit down yourself and explain it at a time that you felt was, more appropriate and maybe less overwhelming?
Yes, I do. I do believe and I don't think it was appropriate for them at that age. But then you've got the question that at what age do you start explaining these things? For children, be it in disability or not. What's the appropriate age? Because everyone's different.
Because I know from my experience, part of what really helped me was the way that it was presented. So, for example, I think there's a book that might still be floating around, but it's called Where Do I Come From? And it explains the whole concept of how a baby is made, and it kind of does it all in like cartoon form, and then you watch a video and it's all presented as a children's cartoon. But I think from what you're saying, they must have used actual like models and photos, which I think is really kind of scarring. In
primary school, I actually got the real life videos. And the thing is, I came from a very sex positive household, so my parents weren't overt about it, but they weren't ever shy about that. Like, if you ever have any questions, if you ever have, like, for instance, my entire life, I come from a household with 2 girls. We had a box of condoms under the sink my whole life. And nobody, so my parents were like, they're there if you need them. You don't have to tell us, but you can. So by the time I got there with all the actual videos, I was pretty much like, oh yeah, no, this, no. But I can see why some kids would be like, holy God.
So visually, what he was seeing, what we were shown, weren't real life, but they were going through charts and sort of thing about the reproductive system of a female, the reproductive system of a male.
That is very
not in real life, but just in pictures and charts. And he couldn't cope with it. So everybody's different, of course.
My rule for my house was pretty much, if you ever do the deed, just wear condoms and make sure, you feel safe and you feel secure. And don't feel pressured. Don't feel pressured to have, sex if it ever comes down to it.
Of course.
But for me, going back to your question, Billy, did I feel comfortable? I did feel comfortable because I see sex scenes like in movies and stuff. But the only problem with me was understanding the concepts of like how sex works. I think like the images of like sex scenes in movies, I didn't think I had a problem with that. But the understanding the information was a bit too much.
Did you find that Did you find that people talk down to you because they perceived that because you had a disability you wouldn't get it?
Yes. So I've always been told that I'm going to be a virgin for life. Even like now, I've always been told that. So hopefully one day, if something comes along,
if you meet the right person, no, it's not right.
Yeah.
And it was on the insight. The person that runs the Datapulse Ball in Sydney was on the insight. Like different organisations come together and discuss about the,
that ABC program,
SBS, and
that's right.
So there was this man speaking on the behalf of another couple with a disability. So, for an example, you and Kerry Ann Nathan, they will get into trouble for being together because they have a disability.
What do you mean get in trouble?
Like you're not allowed to have couples within your disability.
Wow.
But we can't. That's kind of what I remember hearing.
In that circumstance, Catherine, were both of them disabled or just one?
Didn't they both have disability? I don't know what kind of disability, but they're both special needs.
I would love to see that video. And
we'll do our best to we'll track that down and put it in the description if people want to find that.
Videos to show people what There's another, I remember watching a show on a couple, both had CP, but at different levels. So one was a bit like Storm and the other was a bit like Nathan. Mum and Dad, the kids were born, they were fine. They were parents just like normal.
Yeah.
Raising their kids.
I don't know, like, I haven't obviously seen the clip you're talking about, but I used to volunteer at a Distinctive Options around where I live, and there were there were 3 clients that were they all had intellectual disabilities, and they were constantly, it was the world's biggest love triangle on the planet. They were constantly breaking up and getting back together. Sometimes they were engaged. It's like a whole thing. And their parents came to us and were like, "Can you stop this?" And we're like, "No, they're adults. Like, they're allowed to get engaged.
Let them work it out."
That's not a thing we get to monitor.
Do you know, Georgia, it's really funny that you say that. I remember watching, I think it was Australian Story a few years ago, and there was a story of, I don't know if anyone remembers this, there were 2, I think, young adult children with Down syndrome. And the whole conversation was basically the parents were talking about how they didn't believe that their children could fully grasp the concept of a relationship, and they would actually go as far as to say, like they were happy for them to be friends, but the mother was basically on there saying that she didn't believe that her child should have the right to marry this other girl with Down syndrome because they also had slight intellectual disabilities and would struggle to raise a family. And in one respect, I kind of understood, but then I looked at it and went, well, how can you really stop 2 young adults that, consent to be together and say, well, no, you can only, see each other during the day because they didn't want, to see them in bed together or anything like that. And it was just kind of shattering to say, well, hang on, they really love each other. He understands the concept of, I want to get married. I know what it is. But yet the mother was just like, no, but you know, she had this whole thing where she wanted the law changed because in the law's eyes they could still consent, and she was like absolutely not.
In the law. Storm?
I mean the only thing the daughter admitted in the episode, sorry Storm, the only thing the daughter admitted in the episode that she would have had trouble changing a baby, or that she didn't know what baby poop smelled like. But at the end of the day, that's something you could learn, but she understood the concept of a relationship.
Sorry, like nobody knows that. No woman is born with the knowledge of how to raise a baby.
Right.
So like that's normal.
It's not
and they literally went as far as to sit down with these two kids and the families and said, you can only see each other during the day. And the reason for that was, she said, because one night we had them both stay over, we put them in separate rooms, and I think the guy crept into the girls' room, and they were like, okay, day trip only. Now, to be honest with you, as much as and look, to be honest with you, put aside the fact that I as a whole don't agree with, you know, sleeping with someone outside of marriage. The reality is, at the end of the day, is that they are true consenting adults that can do whatever they want.
Mm.
My question to the group was going to be, what are your views on consent? What do you consider actual consent? Because it's been a hot topic around recently about what is appropriate and what is not appropriate, and everyone seems to have a different view on that process. And it seems to be flooding around in sex education now about giving consent, about how to do it and how to be appropriate. And I just think there's too much information about it, and people are going to be very hard and very confused about, am I doing it the right way? Because I don't want to be accused of sexual assault and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, my general go-to for consent, which is I've used my whole life, is enthusiastic consent for things that are not in the normal part of your relationship. So, like, I have friends that they're very huggy people, and they use implied consent. So they'll do this, right? And then you give them a hug. That's implied consent. And then enthusiastic consent would be if they wanted to, I don't know, randomly snog me, they probably should ask first, because, and then wait for me to go, yes, that would be great. So I normally use the implied consent for things that are super chill that you would do in public, and enthusiastic consent for things that you would do behind closed doors.
Right.
And you know, the funny thing is, Georgia, the rules are virtually the same within marriage, in the sense that there are things like, when it comes to, you know, sexual relations, that, you know, I'd have to ask my wife, otherwise it would be considered, you know, inappropriate. But there are also things where, you know, there are things you also wouldn't do in public that are implied that you have automatic access to in marriage.
I mean, I guess the rules change. I mean, not the rules change, but the implied consent, it becomes different when you're in a long-term committed relationship or married, because like
it does
a kiss on the cheek for a stranger, you'd have to get consent for, but kissing your wife on the cheek, like, it's an everyday thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you, Nathan, that the goalposts move at certain points. And I think we really should be leaning in with kids in school and teaching them about consent really early. So
absolutely,
I know that this sounds really weird, but I do this technique with my some of my friends have kids, and when I babysit, we do body autonomy stuff. So when they're really little, I ask them for, say, like a hug. Can I have a hug? You know, when kids are like 3 or 4 and they're really little, and you're saying, okay, say goodbye, and then people are like, oh, can I have a hug? If the kid says no, then we like, it's up to, I guess, me to intervene on behalf of the kid, because the kid doesn't want to be touched. And so therefore you're the adult in the situation. If she says no, then no. She's not obligated to hug you just because you asked. You're an adult. So I mean, I know that's sort of experimental these days.
No, it's good. It's good.
And I absolutely agree with that, because it's like when I first met my my wife, there was one lady at my church who would always, she was an older lady, probably in her 60s, that would always kiss me on the cheek. And I remember having to say to her, you know, please don't do that anymore. I'm actually engaged now. Like, it's not, I don't feel that it's appropriate. And it's to the point where, to be honest with you, like, I only really allow my wife to, you know, hug me. Like, she's the only person that I will actually allow to, you know, hug me. Like, I'll endure it from, you know, in-laws and whatever, because you kind of have to, but I'll never actually offer it because it's so uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. This guy,
Not everybody likes it.
one of the participants in Jumpstart, I known him since Urawa, and he's really tall and really big. And how he greets people is he'll go to everyone and just say hello, hello, hello. And I'm like, you know, you got to at least ask, can I give you, you know, instead of because you're making the people, like, I'm small, like, I'm really petite compared to this really big tall guy. And I'm like, and, you know, he's, anyway. So I'll just, you know, wave at him. That's enough for me.
No, I mean, I agree. I'm actually, I know you can't tell, but I'm 6'1". I'm quite a tall, imposing person. And I always, Billy knows. And I'm always very conscious of being, it should be, like, it's weird. Tall people get another set of rules. You have to be conscious, because how tall are you, Catherine? How tall are you?
4'9".
I would tower over you. Oh my God. See,
you know what I
would never run up.
It's either I ask you to go onto your knees or I stand on a chair.
No, well, this thing is, you can, if I sat down next to you, I was like, oh, because I don't want, also, you don't want to give everyone a face full of boob. Sorry.
No.
But that's just a fact of being tall and a girl.
Yeah, that's
fair enough.
I have a lot of friends that are quite tall. And when they give me a hug to comfort, they don't go to my level. They snuggle me in.
Yeah.
So I guess I know this sounds silly, but I think there's like some type of hugs that people feel more comfortable with. And I think that's what we're getting to. But the point is, for anyone listening out there, is to be firm and to be conscious of what you're saying and what you're actually doing, and don't let the situation control you. You have to be in control of the situation.
Yeah.
Great advice.
There's people out there where it's culturally acceptable for them. So, for instance, if I was meeting anyone, obviously I'm a little bit different because in the field that you're in community services, you're more culturally aware. But if I wasn't, or for somebody else like my mother, for instance, she would want to touch you or pat you on the back, or in our tradition we give kisses 3 times, whether it's on the cheek or just in the air. It has to be 3 times and it's close up. So you guys would have to bear in mind that there are people out there like that too.
Absolutely.
So as much as you guys or us go, oh, it's not appropriate, you need to ask first. Well, we need to also be aware that for them, they're none the wiser and it's appropriate for them. So there's sort of a little bit of, they have to respect you as well. But then there's the elder, like my mother, who would respect you but would be none the wiser. For her, it's a very endearing act rather than,
great point, Billy. Great point.
You know, rather than getting into your face or your space, like your that's a big thing that I found in the public.
Because I know keep going.
We get a lot of elderly ladies in the neighbourhood when Philip's gone for a walk in his wheelchair and then a little bit on his own. Every little old lady in the neighbourhood comes out and wants to kiss him and touch him, and he doesn't like it.
No.
Whereas for us it's different. If I say give me a kiss, he'll give me his head. But that sort of thing where they're not aware of it. So we still have to respect what they're trying to do and be kind, as opposed to they need to respect his awareness too, that he likes that distance. So it's a big thing, whether it's in disability or whether it's not.
You verbal?
Yeah.
Is your son verbal?
No.
So that's tricky for him as well. Does
That's
he
right.
have signs to?
Yes, he'll go like that, or like that, very gently, but he'll put his arms out, or he'll try and push the wheelchair himself. Gets very agitated.
People should see those signs, because that's how he's telling us.
Yeah.
Stop, because there's a lot of people that don't talk within the disability. There's a lot of and there's ways how they communicate.
Yeah.
But it's more us that don't understand, or if you know the person, you would understand. But people have different ways to communicate.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But I'm just sort of more aware of the other side of it.
People who do sign language also communicates differently as well.
Yeah.
Because I know with me, depending on like the social situations, like even when I was single, if I knew the person is just a friend, I'd probably hug them around the shoulders. But say, for example, when I met my wife in person and started dating, I'd hug her around the back, and then when we got married, it would go, obviously lower, because it's for me, it was one of those things where I always want to have boundaries, even whenever I hug someone, that it doesn't look inappropriate, or it doesn't look weird.
Yeah, because I think people are getting very, very careful about where they touch someone these days, because you look at the famous people in Hollywood, if they do something bad about touching someone, they can get sued for it. And it's exactly the same principle in the everyday world as well.
Yeah.
So people are more conscious and more aware of what they can and can't do.
And the thing is, I think too, Storm, that people need to be, like, for example, I have severe PTSD around anyone else other than my wife doing my personal care, and thank goodness no one else has had to. But the thing is that if someone, for example, were to do anything that would trigger me, like say, for example, if I had a home care worker walk into my home and she saw me on, the toilet, that would trigger me. Or if they went to try and help me, thinking they were doing a good thing, whether it be pulling up my pants or, helping me clean up after I've gone to the toilet, they may well actually put me and themselves in danger. So it's very important to specify, boundaries, especially when there is personal care, and to even have, if you can get one, like if you have, severe anxiety or PTSD, you really should always have a positive behaviour support plan.
That's right. And also respect to yourself. They should be asking you.
Yeah.
Are you okay? Would you like me to help you dress?
Yeah,
or would you like me to? It's always, you have to pre-ask everything. And I do that with my own son, regardless.
Well, then I got to scoot for a second. Billy, you guys hold down the fort. I'll be right back.
Yes. So, yes, I usually have to ask the same question, Nathan, I mean, I don't just take him in the shower and strip him. I'll say, would you like to have a shower now? And he'll answer me either by walking to the shower or by using his communication book and saying yes, spelling out yes.
Yeah.
It's the respect.
Yeah, you can't. You got to give people a choice. You can't.
That's right. Always.
Always a choice. So
because for example, like with my wife, it's a given that if my butt crack's showing or we're getting undressed, we're gonna have a shower. Like she doesn't need to go as far as to say, would you like to shower now? But one thing we have noted, and this is where it frustrates me with strangers, like for example, I might fall over in public, and if someone else tries to pick me up, they will, for example, try to hoist my pants up. Now, one particular day that happened, I'd flipped over outside of a Bunnings in some hire wheelchair that I had, and I didn't even realize that I was getting up off the floor, that the guy had hoisted up my pants. And he's very lucky that I didn't notice, because given that my PTSD is particularly exacerbated by males, it could have potentially led to me, defending myself or punching him square in the face.
Unfortunately, sometimes in life people try to do things the right way, but could intentionally cause more harm than good. And that's where we have to educate these people in public that we will ask for help when needed, and if we're fallen over and we can't do it, we'll ask. But
that's the same with me.
But part of the problem with that is that our brains are naturally wired to help someone that's had an accident. It's been scientifically proven that that's how we work. So it's a very difficult thing to go on. Georgia, we were just talking about an incident where Nathan had a bad accident in the Bunnings area, and the guy tried to pick him up, and it was not appropriate.
Yeah. So basically, to bring you up to speed, Georgia, what had happened was probably a few months ago now. I was with my wife, and I had a hire wheelchair, and as I went up one of those tiny little ramps, the wheelchair I had didn't have any anti-tippers. I went over. As I was getting off the floor of the car park, this guy wanders over, because people just try to like pick me up. As I'm getting over the shock and I'm just picking myself up, I was absolutely fine. And this guy's all of a sudden, this tall old man is like pulling me up. And my wife later told me that as he's pulling me up, he also, obviously my pants had slid down a bit and he's pulled them up. And what I was saying to the rest of the guys was that had I realized that he'd done that, he placed himself in great danger, because if my PTSD had been triggered, I would have put him on that car park.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of a weird thing, because I've also been diagnosed with PTSD in my past. Sorry, a bit of a disclosure, so trigger warning for anybody. But I had the same sort of plans you were talking about, and went through a lot of counselling and stuff to try and get over some stuff. But I totally understand. You don't have any control in that moment. When you get triggered, you just freak out. And I'm not going to lie, it's not great.
And the thing is, like, even for example, I'll give you a really, really good example where even family, you know, God bless them, don't understand boundaries. Like my mother-in-law, for example, when we were when we were doing fittings for the wedding, she couldn't grasp the concept of nobody other than my wife can put their hands near my crutch. And what would happen was, even though even though she was never in any danger because she's just fixing up my pants, I would stiffen up like a board. And the reason is because one of the things that I have PTSD over, other than, you know, the medical environment, which is my biggest one, my second biggest one is anyone else doing my personal care or touching me intimately other than my wife.
Yeah.
So, for example, if my wife ever needs, you know, wrist surgery down the track due to, you know, carpal tunnel or whatever, nobody else other than her can shower me or do my personal care.
Just moving on to a different question. Do you feel, Catherine, as a female, it's harder to date people because of your gender?
No, not really.
No?
Because like, if I did try to find someone, I would, but with with like a mild disability, it can be a bit more challenging in finding the right way to find someone.
Right.
So, like, hoping this speeding date will happen in Melbourne soon. I would, you know, that would be a good starting point to get into that path.
Yes, and if Catherine can find the links, I'm sure we'll put it down in the podcast section.
Yeah, we will.
Oh, sorry, Billy. Go, Billy.
No, you go ahead. I was just going to go to the next question, but go ahead.
I just had one more follow-up for Catherine. So because of your disability, do you find this is just a little insight from a woman's perspective. As a woman dating in general, its safety precautions are so necessary when trying to date. because you hear about all this craziness on the news where women get abducted or disappear, or this murder and
Too often.
sorry. So as a woman dating in general, you have to be super careful. Do you have extra safety precautions because of your disability, just to make sure, or you just going off your stock standard ones that, like, you know?
I'll probably go safety, like you would want to know the person very well before you actually go ahead. Yeah, so.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have like a pepper spray thing in your bag, or any sort of like objects that you would, if the worst were to happen?
Pardon? Say that again.
Do you have like a pepper spray thing in your bag, or an object that would help you if the worst thing were to happen?
And I just wanted to clarify why I asked that. It's because statistically, people with disabilities are at higher risk of abuse.
That's true.
In general. And I just wanted to bring that up because dating is very, you put yourself in a very vulnerable situation, and especially being a woman in dating with a disability, that puts you at serious high risk of problems. Not that I'm trying to scare anyone. Geez, no.
No.
I'm just like, do you have extra safety precautions, or would you recommend any extra safety precautions for you? Sorry, do you want me to repeat that, Catherine? I'm sorry.
I'm so distracted at the moment.
No, you're fine. You know what? We can move on to the next question and circle back if you like, if you've got stuff going on.
But my support worker's here.
Oh shoot! All right, we'll wrap it up. We'll do the last question, and we'll sort of wrap her up. Today. So the last question was, Billy, you were going to.
Oh no, I was just going to ask. How did your parents feel about you, or did your parents feel about you dating or wanting to date?
Well, I've had this conversation before with my family, and I haven't brought anyone to the actual house, or I haven't met anyone yet. But if I did go through that process, it would be only bring someone that I felt like I was romantically had a strong connection with. I wouldn't just bring some random person after like a movie date or something. It would have to be months and months of meeting up and really getting to know that person before I did something like that. Okay. Because one of the things that will instantly happen is my mum or my sister will be very, very protective, because as you pointed out, Georgia, people with disabilities are more likely to be abused or have some very bad outcomes in the love game. So they're going to be very much protective. And the first thing they'll do is like, why are you dating him? What are you there for? Are you there for him as a person, or for his money? Things like that. And then
you think that's a deterrent?
Yeah.
And I think safety-wise, one of the best things you can do is make sure you meet in public where there's plenty of people around.
Absolutely. Do not, and I mean this, do not go on a first date where it's just you and that person. That's just not a good idea, because you've got no control over what could happen.
Yeah.
And if you go with people in a group, or like in a group setting, at least you got more control. And if things do get uncomfortable, you can say, okay, Mike, I'm sorry, but I feel like I've got to go somewhere. And then that way it's a bit more easier for you to leave the actual setting.
But I mean, even then, Storm, if you're going to do one-on-one, I think even just meet in a public place. Like, you don't need to have a third wheel. Like, just make sure there's people around you so that someone would notice if you were being abducted or something was happening.
Yeah.
You had something to say, Catherine?
Yeah, I need to get going.
Oh, okay. Well, we're just gonna we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for participating with us today. And say a big goodbye to everybody.
Bye, everybody. Comment, rate, and subscribe.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna we'll wrap it up today. And thanks everybody for did we want to continue on a little bit, just because we only have
I don't mind.
You don't mind? Because I wanted to hear from Billy on this particular topic, because we're fortunate enough to have 3 very solid demographics of Storm, you live at home with your mother with a disability. Billiana, you are a parent to a disabled child, and Storm, Nathan, you now live with your partner exclusively.
I'm legally married. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, you are legally married. So it's and you just have to deal with like in-law. Oh, speaking of, you have in-laws now. So cool. That do we want to start with Storm? Oh, we're already going.
Okay.
So continue. Oh my god.
So what? No, you're okay, Georgia. So what was the exact question you wanted to ask me, Georgia?
It was sort of a continuation of the question that Billy asked. Was what was it, Billy? So sorry. What am I doing?
It was how your parents feel about you dating, wanting to date, or
I think they would be comfortable with it, but like I said previously, I think that protective shield would be up, very, very much so, because they know that as much as I'm mature in a lot of ways, dating is a completely different thing, because when you're in love, and I've talked to this where people who are very experienced in this type of setting, is that you can't see both ways. You can be love sick, and I do agree with the term love sick. And what I mean by that is you can't think logically once you're involved with someone romantically, and you might think that you're doing the wrong thing, but you go along with that partner anyway because you just think it's the right thing to do. And sometimes you might be pushed into a situation where you don't feel comfortable, but you're doing it anyway because you're in that lovesick zone. And it's very, very important for those of you who haven't experienced that love, that kick in the gut type feel, is to know that kick in the love gut type feel is a completely different thing to thinking logically. So you've got to be able to separate your personal feelings and your emotional feelings when you're in that love situation.
And so I guess what you're saying is it's nice having your parents there to sort of pull you up on it and be like, wait, quit it, pull your head in.
You've done the wrong thing, and that's where parents need to have a bigger role in their children's love life, or their kids, or anyone that they live with, because if you don't see that you're making a mistake but other people do, that's when you've got to really think about it. And having that mindset is a lot better than just going along with it because you think it's okay, but really in the long run it might not be okay.
I think sorry, go on. I was just going to say, equally though, Storm, in my experience, I think you have to be, when it comes to this as a parent, you have to be so careful, and I'll tell you why. Like, for example, with my first relationship, it went to garbage, basically. Okay, when I met my now wife, and I took the right process. I made sure I did everything right. I didn't just, let my blood drain out of my head, so to speak. I actually, thought about everything logically. After a couple of months, when I went down to actually meet my wife and spend time with her and get to know her and meet her family, I texted my brother and I showed him a photo and I said, I've been dating this girl for about a month now. It's all going well. First thing my brother says is, no talking about marriage and babies within the first month. Now, the difference between my last relationship is that the girl that I was dating was, let's just say, she was very, very, very immature. Whereas, obviously, my wife was quite mature. We had, discussed, getting married and what we wanted, and everything kind of matched up. But my point is, as a parent, you have to be so careful, because my brother basically assumed that I had made the same mistake a second time, when in actual fact, my wife is the complete opposite to my ex-girlfriend.
Right. So my brother. Sorry, Nathan, to cut you off. So what you're really saying is that the parents have to be careful because they don't know that person like what you do. They only see it from the outside and not from the inside.
Well, it's more to say, Storm, don't assume, like, for example, I get that my brother cares about me, right? But at the end of the day, you can't assume that someone, just because they made a mistake once and learnt from it, is going to make the same mistake again. Because when I even told my brother, hey, I'm getting married, his reaction was, oh, when's the baby due? Which my wife and I found highly offensive, because basically at that point, what my brother was implying was the only reason anyone would marry you is because you've accidentally, gotten them pregnant, which was not which was not the case at all. So basically, what my brother had essentially done is, just because I said to my brother in about, I think it was about November, oh, you're rushing this like the last relationship. In actual fact, the only reason things were speeding along was because I was being mature about it, was because I was taking things a lot slower, and therefore things just happened to speed up on their own, if that makes sense.
So, like a natural progression.
Yeah, exactly.
So it really is more about when you do find that person, is to not rush things and to take it a natural and be slow and go at your own pace.
Much. Find your own speed.
Yeah.
Well, I have an anecdote very similar to yours.
Sure.
A friend of mine's brother, he has an intellectual disability, and he met his now wife, and they got married relatively quickly. And the parents were really against it. They didn't like her at all. She's lovely. There's nothing wrong with. They were like, oh, she just wants your money. She's like trying to get in with your disability pension.
That was my brother. Yeah.
You shouldn't see her, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't until it was literally the day of their wedding that the parents were finally like, I guess she's okay. And he was it really damaged their relationship with their child and his new wife, because they were like, she didn't want my money. She wanted me the entire time.
Yeah. I don't think my parents would be like that at the start. I think that's more of a protective thing. And once they get to know that person, then they'll realize, oh, I don't think they're in it for like bad outcomes. I think they're in it for good.
And the thing is, the joke, and Storm will love this, the jokes you can make when you get married. My wife and I, used to joke about the fact that, we couldn't understand what the problem was, because he would, think that, someone's going to take advantage of me. She'd be like, given that you have a disability pension, you don't have any money for me to take.
That's so fun.
And the thing is, like, with my brother, bear in mind, like, when it came to my second relationship, he basically judged someone before he even, because he's never even met Carrie Ann. Like, he refused to essentially turn up to the wedding. And the one thing I will say is, when I showed him a photo of my beautiful wife, now wife, his reaction was, oh, she's gorgeous. It was, oh, she's definitely an upgrade.
Wow.
What? That's terrible.
I know, right?
Can I ask, Nathan, how's the relationship since now with your brother? Is it still on rocky ground, or is it prepared itself?
There's a few complexities in between, but to give you the nuts and bolts, my brother and I have no contact, because, and it's not that I don't want to have any contact with him, or it's not that I've done anything. It's more that he's just decided that he, for social media purposes, he basically has an issue with me that's not actually there. But realistically, for the, people online, I'll say this, he needs to pull his head out of the gutter.
Right. Well, on that, I'm going to pass to Billy. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to pass to Billy and be like, Billy, as a parent of a child with a disability, what are your fears and thoughts about your child dating eventually?
Okay. I have quite a few fears when it comes to Philip. The biggest one is when I'm not around anymore. He's a little bit more complex than just saying he's got cerebral palsy and delay, like a developmental delay, even though he is quite bright in many ways. As a parent, yes, it scares me, but also as a parent, and I'm not speaking for every parent that has a child with disabilities. As a parent myself, I feel that he needs to have all the opportunities that somebody without a disability has. Everything I do or we do and his siblings do around him makes up for some sort of normality other than just saying, yeah, he's got a disability, so therefore, we'll leave him alone, and nobody interacts with him from the siblings' point of view, as in they're friends, because that they do. It's always a fist pump or high five or what you doing, Philip, and everybody interacts with him and everybody loves him.
Fantastic.
So to basically say, my answer to that question is, I would give him all the opportunities like a person without disabilities. And I'm not going to say like a normal person, because there's no such thing as normal out there.
No.
No.
As a person
I'm
without,
definitely not normal.
That's as a person without disabilities, because he's got his vices, they're not even vices, they're more like Nathan, what we were talking about, not being touched, or the way he interacts, or the way he shows an loving or an endearing thought to somebody without, in a physical way. But yes, it is very scary.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's 17, so he's a young man. He's not a boy anymore, and we respect all parts of life as you would a teenager without disabilities. And I would give him the opportunities, but I would be very scared. I would be very, just like I would with any other child. My other three, same thing. But, give him all the opportunities that he can cope with, but very, very scared and very cautious I'd be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll soon find all that out when he goes to after next year, when he goes to a full-time day facility.
I would imagine if your son were to date anyone, that you would have to sit down with that person and just
yes, of course,
and do all the safety checks and everything as well.
There is a young lady that goes to the same school in the same year level. Cognitively, she's not like she could go to a normal school, but physically she's got muscular atrophy, which is quite severe. So she's in a lying down position all the time. She adores Philip, and Philip actually gives her things, like he'll pick something up, So
interesting.
You can see that, and you know what? I adore seeing that. That's wonderful. To me, that's the most beautiful thing to see. But the next step, as he gets older, that's yet to be seen because of the developmental delay and other things. This is where it's a bit tricky, because you don't know if his brain, the connections there are working with every other part of the body. So that's open to interpretation, how you like it. And whether his delay is, in many aspects of that side of life, is so low, as in, he might be on a par of a 10-year-old or a 6-year-old, and that as he gets older, that might jump up and up and up, but of course he'll be a lot older. So whether that comes into effect, I'm not sure.
Do you think a big part of it is going to come down to that old adage of like assuming that, you know, and please don't stone me for saying this, but assuming that your son gets to the stage where he can have the capacity to, you know, consent to like a relationship, marriage or sex or whatever, do you think that a big part of that will be, you know, it'll just take like the right person? Because that's what people always said to me, you know, it's just a matter of the right person coming along.
And it is for sure. The right person that'll understand him in many ways and be happy enough to take on, because let's be realistic, it's not an easy occupation to take on.
No, because
so,
I think me and Nathan and yourself can agree with this. Having a partner for us is more like a partner and a carer at the same time.
Yeah.
I know that's a bit strange for able-bodied people to understand, but that's the reality of the situation. And
that's right. Totally agree. And like you guys would understand where I'm coming from on that, you know, like they would have to understand not just his personality and characteristics and everything else, but the whole disability side as well.
And I know, like, the one thing I've always said to my wife, and I think this is where, you know, you've kind of got to keep a really big balance in the sense that there are, you know, and I'll say this, you know, without as cleanly as I can, there are biological needs that males naturally have. So I've always said to my wife, and my whole philosophy has been, you know, for example, if I, you know, needed, you know, even though, yes, I need care, the reality is at the end of the day, the way I see it is you're my wife first, then my carer.
Absolutely.
That's right. And I feel that I'm teaching Philip by repetitive things that we are doing in life, so that down the track when he is older that he can actually cope with that. You know, like slowly. So there comes in the choices, giving him choices, to answer me with that choice. All those things come into place to prepare him, basically to prepare him for the future.
If you don't mind me asking, with the way that your son's tracking now, do you see, you know, any indication, I mean, other than what you've obviously described, do you see any, you know, I guess, signs, so to speak, that give you any hope that he may well actually end up, you know, finding someone and having a family of his own?
No.
Okay.
I don't even have to think about that. I've had a discussion with his doctor, because she's had to have this discussion with me, obviously, because we're moving on from, you know, child, adolescence to adult, everything. And she's explained things to me, and I've just said to her, visually and in every other way, I've seen absolutely nothing, because she's educating me in what I'm to expect or am supposed to expect now. And I said to her, I don't see any indication whatsoever of any of those sort of feelings or anything. All I see is a young 17-year-old young man who is very well aware of his sexuality, well aware of everybody around him. Even if he's not looking at you, he knows you're there and he's listening to everything. So it's not like you can have a conversation about him in front of him and believe that he can't understand what you're talking about. Yes, he can. So
and
all that's there.
Unfortunately, a lot of specialist doctors, they automatically assume that every person with a disability is the same sort of wide process.
Yeah. So she's telling me this because she feels that he's a young adult, and I said to her, well, I don't see any of this yet, so I'm yet to see it. But hey, the future's out, you know. We'll see what happens.
Well, we're going to have to call it that for today.
Yes, I was going to say, on that note, we're going to have to say goodbye.
But thanks.
Please comment, rate, and describe.
Yes, comment.
Describe.
And thank you so much to our lovely speakers, Storm and Nathan.
Thank you very much, Georgia, for
Thank you.
helping, and
Thank
Billy.
you, Nathan. Thank you, Storm.
Thank you.
And Nathan, as usual, thank you.
Well, catch you all in the next one. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
See you later, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.